Apology Friday. Want to say that up front because my man Aaron Tomlinson has some stuff he has to do, so he can't be here tonight. So I deliberately moved this to a half an hour later to kind of reset the expectation, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to kind of step on what Aaron and I are doing on Freeology Friday. But because it's Friday and I ain't got shit to do, I thought maybe I'll do a video. But I want to take it in a different direction because I want to ask you, the viewer, the listener, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? And this is a very critical question. And I think that most people really don't devote the attention to that question that they should. Because people go through their entire life with their dreams, their desires, their ambitions unfulfilled. And it's a damn shame. Cemeteries are full of the untapped potential of humanity. I'll say that again. Cemeteries are full of the untapped potential of humanity. In other words, some people, now watch this, this is going to really blow your mind, because some people, their dreams die when they physically die. And some people's dreams die well before that. And today, what I want to do is I'm not going to talk to you or talk at you. I want to talk with you. I'm putting the link in the chat here. And I'm also going to show this on the screen so that you can see it and you can join in, right? Because today I want to tap into what is it that you are doing with your life. Now, let me just say this for the record, that I'm not doing exactly what I want to do with my life. However, what I will say is that I am very successful at what I do. And because I've achieved success, and my success is by no means accidental. Everything that I've done was intentional, and I'm going to explain why that has pluses and minuses. But everything that I've done has been intentional, which means that I'm qualified to share this with someone else in hopes that they might learn some principle, some tactic, some strategy to help them attain the goals, the dreams, the desires, the ambitions that they have, right? So before we get started, this is not a plug, but this is what I'm drinking tonight. It's called the Velvet Devil, and it's a Merlot from California. It's very, very good, very drinkable. You'll enjoy it. And put aside all the notions about the word devil, because there is no devil. I'm not getting into anything spiritual or religious, but I'm just going to tell you that. So let me talk about my trajectory into success, because here's the thing. I was born in Decatur, Illinois. I was raised in Detroit by a single mother for most of my life. And my mom worked, she sweated, she toiled, she worked, 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs, including going to school at night to try to make a better life for us. And what she produced are 3 college-educated professionals that are all eminently successful by any metric that you choose to utilize. So Shirley did a good job in raising her kids. Now, I'll tell her all the time, hey, I know you weren't the best mom, but you were the best mom that I had. You gave me the best that you had. And so consequently, I have worked very hard to uh, to give my kids the life that I only dreamed of. Hey Linda, hey Jimmy, thank y'all for joining. And listen, this is an interactive show. This is not just me talking. And let me do one more quick thing here. Let me go on Facebook and and put this in the chat on my personal page because if it's not up there, you won't see it. So join in. You can join in at any time because I want to know, are you living the life that you want to live? Are you living your dream? Is this the life that you expected? Now, let me go back for a minute and say this because I am, again, if I had to do it all over again, I'm going to show you what I'd be doing if I had to do it all over again because I got some material here. This is how to illustrate and design concept cars. This was my childhood passion. I was all about everything car related. And so I wanted to be an automobile designer. That was my goal. So basically my educational path was in engineering because that's what I wanted to do. Now, did I do that? No, I didn't, because what I learned is that even though I was a really good artist, a really good sketcher, I was really a study hall sketcher. I wasn't somebody that could actually design real concept cars. I didn't have that level of talent. So I had to think about other things that I could do. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do, this has always been in my heart, was to be a speaker or a teacher or a coach, because this is something that I've been really, really good at. I've had a lot of success at this. You know, Jimmy says you can't draw a circle. No, but brother, hear me. I'm really good. I didn't bring it. I didn't bring any of my sketches to show on screen, but Jimmy, I'll share them with you. I'll send you some. I'll send you a couple of text messages with some of my sketches. But what happened was is that I found out that in order for me to really get out of the situations and circumstances that I was in growing up in Detroit, that I had to get away from Detroit. Okay, and getting away from Detroit meant either I could go to school or I could join the military. And so I joined the Navy in 1980, and I spent 7 years in the Navy, and I had a really good military career, all things considering, because the first 2 or 3 years of my military career, I just really kind of goofed off. I mean, there were some things that I wanted to do, and when I didn't achieve those goals, I kind of got nihilistic and became very self-destructive. But somebody took me under their wing, under their shoulder. Several people said, hey, you know, the Navy will grind you up and chew you up and shit you out if you know, keep going in the way that you're going. But if you straighten up and fly right, you'll make something out of this and it'll change the trajectory of your life, which is true. Hey, Brent, how you doing? Just for the record, I'm going to say this again, that this is an interactive show today. I'm not trying to just talk at people. I want to talk to you. So if you're interested, please join in. The link is in the chat. It's in, and it's showing up on my my Facebook public page, and also on my YouTube. And I put it in. I copied and pasted it into my regular Facebook page so that you guys can see the link, click the link, and join in. Okay. But that being said, I wanted to talk about intentionalness, if that's a word. I don't know. And it's this, that basically, when I couldn't do what I wanted to do in the Navy, I picked up on what they call data processing. That's what they called it at the time. And now I think they call it information systems. But the deal is that I got into this, and I learned how to write code in COBOL, in Fortran, in BASIC. I learned how to write SQL code, and eventually I went on to learn C++ and Visual Basic. I learned how to use the Oracle database, learned how to use Sun Microsystems, the Sun OS, which was called Solaris at the time. And I learned some things and all of that. Then I learned how to do Microsoft Windows, and I was one of the first Windows NT certified professionals in the United States, probably in the world. And so I was certified in SQL Server and in Windows NT Server, and I was able to leverage that to get into what my next illustration is. Actually, no, that's not it. So where did I put it? Actually, it's over here. So bear with me for just a second here. I'm working with a really small table here and not my normal desk. But SAP, all right? So I learned SAP. And if you know anything about SAP, is that back in the 90s, this was the hot software product. It was the hot enterprise software solution. And at that time, there were people, I knew people back in those days that they were making $400 and $500 an hour. $400 to $500 an hour. Y'all, that's doctor and lawyer money. That's crazy money. And so I got into that. Now, I wasn't making that money to start off with, but I learned it, and I got to learn it through the mothership. I actually was working for SAP America, the American arm of SAP, which is a German company based in Waldorf, Germany. Now, let me take you backward just a little bit, because how I got into IT and then started learning all of these languages, because I was reading the classifieds even when I was on active duty. And so I was learning what was going to make me money once I got out. And so when I got out in 1987, I took a job, and the funny thing is that the gentleman who got me my first job was my former XO, who retired and became a recruiter. And so he got me my first job, and I literally made 2.5 times what I was making on active duty as a civilian. That was my first job coming out of the military. And it's just been a steady trajectory upward from there. So what I've done is, and this is what I want to share with you, right, is I've been really successful at chasing technology. I've been very successful at chasing money. So now I work in a situation where I'm helping people migrate their SAP workloads from their own data centers or leased data centers into the cloud, whether that be AWS, Google, or Microsoft Azure, right? So those are the three, and again, it's putting yourself in a position to learn. Let me tell you something, is that if I were to take my comb here, right, and if somebody were to offer me a better comb, but I had a tight grip on this thing, right? If I had this tight grip on this thing, I couldn't release it to receive something better. So what I had to learn was to always be in a posture where I could receive. Always setting myself up for the next thing. If you know anything about obstacle courses and things like that, that if you're swinging on ropes or going across parallel bars, what you'll learn is that in order to move to the next objective, you've got to let go. You can't hold on to the same rung with both hands at the same time and expect to make forward progress. That doesn't work. You have to, release and grab the next one, release and grab the next one, and so on and so on. Okay, and you have to do that repeatedly in order to reach your objective and complete the course. Okay. So what I learned was to not be so yoked to any particular thing because the winds of change may blow and opportunity may present itself to do something else. But if you're tightly yoked to this one thing, because I know people to this day, they're still writing COBOL code or they're still coding, period. And there's nothing wrong with coding. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, you move into more leadership, more strategic roles and less tactical roles. And that was what my goal was. I always wanted to move up the ladder, right? Because I was ambitious, right? So the moral of the story is that you can be good at chasing money. But this is what I want to share with you is that if money is not an object, if money is not the primary thing, what is it that you want to do? Because see, again, I said earlier that I would be a speaker, a teacher, or coach if I could, if that would replace the money that I make now. Because right now it doesn't. It's not even close. It's not in the same ballpark. It's not in the same universe. Now, of course, if I become somebody like Gary Vee or Grant Cardone or Real Talk Kim or Stormy Wellington or somebody like that, I could do that. But right now that's not the thing. I have to graduate to that, right? So, in the meantime, while I'm waiting to do what I want to do, I'm getting better at what I need to do. So, here's the other thing. If you have access to things like cloud learning or Coursera, you need to get into that, right? And start taking courses. And it's not just IT. There are tons of other courses. Or you could go to Stack Social or Udemy. And I'll put some links in the in after the show is over so that you guys can go and check that out. And and for the cost of a cup of coffee for a month, you can actually get some courses that will help you improve in what it is that you're doing, or to help you to learn a skill that'll help you springboard and get escape velocity from what you're doing into what you want to do. I hope all of that is making sense. So I talked about SAP, but again, like I was saying that I wanted to be a speaker, a teacher, a coach. So I have the speaker's quote book. One of the things that you need to do is you need to make sure that while you're waiting to do what it is that you want to do, start getting good at what you want to do and also get good at what you're doing. Keep that same energy, right? Because you're going to need that. So my man Jimmy Ligon is in the green room. I'm going to bring him on. Jim, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
How you doing today?
I am doing well.
Hey, your
Nice relax.
audio's real low.
Oh, is it? Hold on.
Yeah.
It should be loud. Maybe because I had the mic too far from me. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
Okay. I'm doing great, man. I can't complain. Maybe we can put the mic right there. There we go. Yeah, man, having a great day. Nice Friday, nice chill Friday.
All right.
Got some training done for work today, so I'm happy.
Awesome.
Yep. But to
Well,
answer
let
your
me ask you a
question,
question,
oh, go
Jimmy.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
What is it that you're doing right
Mm-hmm.
now, right?
Okay.
And what is if money were no object,
Uh huh.
if costs were no object, if
Uh-huh.
time were no object,
Right.
what would you want to do?
Okay. What I'm doing right now is I work in sales for a company that helps people get out of their timeshare because no one is buying timeshares anymore. People are locked into these maintenance fees every year, and a lot of these people are not even using the timeshare anymore. So they just flush their money down the toilet every month.
Yep.
So I get paid to help people get out of their timeshares. That's what I do. If time and money were no object, and like I had all the time in the world and all the money in the world, I would spend my time This is what I always wanted to do, but I never got into it for whatever reason. Um, I would go to school to learn how to properly engineer music,
Hmm.
and I would spend my time engineering music and producing music, primarily hip hop, because that's my choice. But I would be in the hip hop, urban music genre, and I would probably be a mixing engineer and a mastering engineer for all types of music. But my production would be mainly towards hip hop because that's what I'm good at. But yeah, I definitely would be working in music instead of doing what I'm doing now. Not that I don't enjoy what I do. I like sales a lot, but my passion is music. I have records. I've been a music fan since I was like 3 years old. Is when I got turned on to James Brown, and I've been a James Brown fan forever. Like I don't have all the vinyl records because that's pretty damn near impossible to do these days. But I got every single album he's ever made on my hard drive. That's for sure. Every single one. So I'm really in love with music, not just hip hop or soul and funk, but I like classical. I like rock and roll. I like just good music. If it sounds good to me, I like it. I'm not a big fan of country, but there's a few country songs out there that are pretty that are okay. So I got an open mind when it comes to music. So I could see myself working easily 10, 12, 14 hours a day in a mixing studio, mixing music all day for whether I'm working on a particular project or mastering albums for people. I would love to learn how to do all that. Like I know how to mix a little bit, but I want to get the professional training for that. And I also want to learn how to master because master is something totally different. People confuse that, but mastering is an art form in itself. So I would love to get involved with that because I think music is just like music speaks to me on so many levels. So that's what I would be doing if I had
Yeah.
all the time and money in the world and I'd have to worry about it. I would like if I won the 7,000 or 10,000 a month or a week for life or won the Powerball, I would say, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take my ass to engineering school and learn how to engineer. And if I get a job or get a working in a studio, great. If I don't, at least I know how to do it and I can do it knowing what I do, get some equipment at home and just have fun doing that. Cause
Now, can
that fills me up. That fills me up.
can I tell you a story, right? Because
Yeah. You can always tell me a story, Derrick.
it'd be nice.
Your stories are dope. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, it would be nice if you could go to school and get that education. But I'm going to tell you a story about two friends of mine, right?
Okay.
That they were bagging groceries and doing odd jobs, but they were playing in a band,
Hmm.
right? And so they got a call to work on a project that would become something major.
Okay.
That it would become they'd be signed to a major recording label and they would tour and everything. But these two guys were into writing, arranging, and producing. Now,
Right.
they had never done this professionally, but this was what they wanted to do. And so they branched off from their what they were doing, and they had an opportunity to do a production for an established R&B band.
Nice.
Somebody thought enough of them to bring them aboard to produce this already platinum selling R&B band.
Wow.
So
That's
they
a hell of
did
an
it.
opportunity. Yeah.
They did it. But what happened was something they were doing with that project conflicted with the project that they were originally signed to, and they got fired.
Oh, wow.
They got fired. Okay, but as they say in the infomercials, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
So they finished this and they produced a multi-platinum album for this R&B band, and they
Hmm.
got cited for it. They got nominated as for a Grammy
I
as
think I know who
producers
this
of the
is.
year.
I think I know who this is.
Now, what's funny is then their next one was with an established R&B artist from a musical dynasty.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And they went, one of them, because at that time both of them didn't have a car, only one of them did,
Right.
went to pick her up from the airport in
Hmm.
their old Toyota Celica. And when she saw that, she was like, these guys can't be serious. But what they did is they changed the trajectory of her career.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did that, they changed the trajectory of the entire fucking music industry. They had no professional training. They had
Mm-hmm.
no, basically, they were piggybacking on the fame that they had as part of this band. These
Mm-hmm.
two guys, in case you already know, I know that you know from the look in your eye,
Yep, I know
Terry
exactly
Lewis
who it
and
is.
Jimmy Jam,
Yep, Lewis and Jam.
right?
Yep, I knew exactly who you're talking
And
about.
these are two old friends of mine, right? And they are wealthy beyond their wildest imagination.
They are
They have
geniuses.
changed. I mean, they work with everybody. They work with Babyface, with Teddy Riley, with Robert Palmer, with Human League. I can't even begin to tell you who they've worked with.
As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam, I don't know if Janet Jackson's career would have been that successful.
You know what? And that
Because
is a really good point.
That Control album was a monster.
It was almost at the same level as Thriller, which had been
Almost.
produced by Quincy Jones,
Right, Quincy Jones, right. Yep.
right? So again, these guys, no professional training, they went at it, right? And that's what I'm saying to everybody that's listening is that in the event that you don't have professional training, you can still go at it. Um, Let me give you another example.
Oh, and
Lewis
just
Hamilton.
before you go into that real
Yeah.
quick, the
Uh-huh.
band that they were in, by the way, in case you didn't know, was The Time. Anyway,
The time.
featuring
Yeah.
Morris Day. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
That's my brother, by the way.
Morris Day,
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah. Real life.
That's your
Yeah.
like full brother.
Well, half brother. We have the same dad and different moms.
Well, kiss my ass for real. I'm
Yep.
sorry, for real.
Yep.
Derrick Day. That makes sense.
Yep. For real. For
Holy
real.
shit! Wow. Well, next time you talk to Morris, tell him he got a lifelong fan here. I've been a fan since 7/7/7/93/11, baby.
All right. Well, you came in one album late, but that's okay. You'll still be forgiven.
What was the one before? Oh, the one before that was the one with
Get it up. Cool.
yeah, get it up,
Yep.
boom, boom,
Yep.
boom. Yeah. Well, then since then, because that was the album. I
Yep.
keep getting them mixed up. I keep thinking that was on the first album, but it wasn't.
No. No.
It was on the second album called "What Time Is It." The
That's
first
right.
album was just The Time,
Exactly.
and they
Yep.
were on the front stoop of
So
that
here's the
house.
thing. You were talking about Janet Jackson, right? Because the album
Uh-huh.
before that she did was produced by some of the members of Devo,
Was it? I didn't
the
know
new
that.
wave band. And she made this song, Come Give Your Love to Me. You go look it up and you can
Mm-hmm.
hear the Devo DNA in that song.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it was completely dope, right? The song was. But anyway, Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam elevated her into mega stardom, right?
Yeah.
No training, and again, the time, right? And I could go through all of these guys, the only one of the time that was like what you would call classically trained was Monty Moyer, the keyboardist, right?
Yes. Yeah. I remember
Monty
him.
had classical training, but all the rest of the guys, basically they picked up an instrument, they learned how to play it, and they got really, really good at it, and to the point where they were professional quality.
Wow.
And so that's that's the thing. And the point is that okay, and let me give you another example, right? Because I talked about automobile design. There's
Mm-hmm.
another guy, Ralph Gillies, right? And Ralph Gillies is a young black man who was the chief of design for Chrysler at the time they were owned by Daimler Chrysler. And
Okay.
so his credits include the Dodge Magnum, the Chrysler 300, the Chrysler Pacifica, and the Viper, right? And he was so tied to the Viper that when Chrysler tried to spin off SRT as its own brand, he was the CEO of SRT,
Oh,
right?
really?
Of
Cool.
the performance division for Chrysler. He was not a classically trained engineer. He was an artist. He was a stylist, right? But his love and passion for the automobile and his styling credentials
Mm-hmm.
carried over and allowed him to springboard into other things. right?
Isn't that kind of like Carroll Shelby? He wasn't classically trained either, was he?
Carol Shelby's another good example. Carol
Yeah.
Shelby was not a classically trained engineer, but Carol Shelby's claim to fame. And if you guys ever want to watch a movie, it's called
Ford
Ford
versus
versus
Ferrari.
Ferrari.
That movie is fantastic.
It is.
That
And
movie's so
and
good.
and basically Carroll Shelby helped engineer the Ford GT40, which was the car that kicked Ferrari's ass, and it did that
Right.
because Henry Ford II wanted to buy Ferrari. They had agreed in principle to the sale, and then Enzo Ferrari backed out at the last minute. And so Henry Ford II told his engineers, "Go fuck this guy up."
Yeah. I want to beat Ferrari.
Yep,
Yep.
and that's the story. The
Yep.
moral of the story is that there is nothing that you can't do. You know, I was reading a story about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, he was born he was raised by a single mom. His
Hmm.
his stepdad was a minor league baseball player that had
Hmm.
married his mom, and that's where he got the name Robbins from, because actually Tony Robbins is Croatian, and he has a very, Eastern European surname.
Right.
But he was adopted legally by his stepdad, and one of the things that his stepdad did was gave him this confidence, right? Because he was this tall, awkward, different looking kid, right, that got picked on. And basically his stepdad told him, "Hey dude, you don't have to listen to these fuckers. You can do whatever it is that you want to do." And eventually he began to speak. He got connected with Les Brown and some of the other what's his name, Zig Ziglar, and some
Oh
of the
yeah.
other
Yeah.
speaking luminaries. And he went to seminars, he went to courses, he went to training, and he practiced his craft until the point where, he's Tony fucking Robbins,
Yeah.
right? You
Big
know,
tall. What is he, like 6'7"? That guy's
yeah, yeah,
huge.
he's 6'7", and he's a big dude. He lifts weights and all of that.
Nice guy though. Real nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a super nice guy,
Yeah.
and very dedicated to what it is that he do. So the other thing that, let's talk about that for a second, Jimmy.
Okay.
Dedication,
Hmm.
dedication, right? You listen. There are some people that fall into situations accidentally, but when they fall into a situation accidentally, they don't remain there. Only intention uh, changes your trajectory, right?
Right.
So if you're intentional, that means there is some determination that has to go along with that, right? You
Hmm.
have to be determined to succeed at what it is that you're doing. If you're not determined, and this is a really huge thing, if all you're doing is marking time, and I don't care what it is that you're doing, if it's your marriage, if it's friendships, if it's your business, if it's your job, if it's what you're studying, if you are not determined to see this thing all the way through to the end, punt. You
Yeah.
know, punt. There's absolutely no shame in punting. But if you're trying to do something that you're not focused on, not dedicated to, not determined to see it through to the end, get the
Hmm.
fuck out. Move
Yeah.
on.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's why I had to stop working for insurance companies because number one, I didn't really. It was boring. I did it because you know they're hiring insurance people like all the time, but the business is so shady that one I couldn't keep focused because there was a bunch of shadiness going on, and two, I really thought it was super boring because it was just repetitive. So I like sales though, but I have to be into the sales process of the particular product, and I have to be into the mentorship involved, and also everything involved with that. So my frustration with that came, and so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And the guy that is getting me trained and everything is a real good guy. It's not one of these cookie cutter type of organizations where everybody gets together for a meeting every day with the rah rah speech and there's a bunch of weirdos. And I don't have time for that. That's just that type of environment doesn't. I don't like it because it's not like it's like we're a bunch of kids. And not that I think I'm just so much better, but I'm a 55-year-old man. I ain't got time for that rah stuff. It's tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. I don't need to go to a meeting for an hour every day and waste time. Um, so the environment that I'm in now suits who I am as a person. That's why I like working from home, because I can sit here with my TV on down low. Nobody can hear me because I have noise canceling headsets, and I can just do my job while I watch TV and relax in my house. I mean, I can't complain about anything, to be honest with you. But if you ask me what I want to do, I don't want to do any sales. I just want to make music all day. But at this point, living in Northwest Missouri, that's not that's not a viable option that would make any sense at this point. But like you said earlier, if I had all the money I needed anyway and had all the time I needed, then I could do whatever the hell I wanted to do. And what I want to do is just do music all day long. So I get what you're saying.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to not being trained, now I haven't been professionally trained, but I can mix a song pretty well. I can do a job, and you listen to one. Like, I got a catalog of music that's ridiculous, that stretches back to the 90s, I think. And I have so much music, and you can tell throughout the years how better I got at mixing, because I'm the kind of person, I learn the best through repetition and actually hands-on. And so I've gotten good at mixing stuff. So whether you like it or not, that's all subjective, like the type of music that I do. But you can tell, oh, this is mixed very well. I'm not a big fan of it, but I can tell it's mixed very well. Like,
Yep.
I can listen to country music and be like, I'm not a big fan. My girlfriend loves it. But I can listen to it and go, oh, I like how the sonics of this song sound. I'm not a big fan of the song,
Yeah.
but I'm so open-minded with music that I'll be honest with you, I could take some country songs, chop them up, sample them, and put them together and make a hip hop song, and you would have no idea they came from a country song. That's what I practiced for the last 5 years, is
Yep.
chopping up and sampling music and stretching and doing different things, filtering and doing different things to the sounds. And now that stems are available, that's a game changer. I could take drums out of everything and just have the music there and just shape it. It's a beautiful thing. So right now it's very exciting for that particular pursuit. If you're a young kid out there and you're listening to us right now and you want to get involved in music and you're really passionate about music, you couldn't pick a better time to get involved with music, because especially if you're a hip hop artist who or music maker who understands and likes the process of sampling. And because there's TrackLib now where you can clear your samples like easy, it's so inexpensive now. And it's so awesome, because I don't care what anybody tells you. If somebody tells you, well, sampling isn't really making music. Yes, it is. There is nothing, and I repeat, nothing out there original. I don't care if you play guitar, bass, trumpet. You're playing notes and chords that have existed for centuries. Nothing's new. All you're doing is taking those sounds and creating your own play off of those sounds. But those sounds, there's nothing new.
Nothing new.
You're just putting it together in a different way, adding your own words if you're a singer or a rapper or whatever, or doing your own arrangements and adding your own drums and this, that, and the other thing. So don't let anybody tell you that. It's not true. There's nothing that is that, like when people say you're just taking sounds from everybody else. I said, well, you're taking guitar sounds. Les Paul and all those guys have been doing this for years. And Eddie Van Halen did that riff you did. And, and all the, Eddie Van Halen is the one that made harmonics a thing for rock and roll. So that's not new either. And like Linkin Park, like, you talk to a lot of these guitarists and they'll tell you, yeah, I learned from Les Paul. I learned from Van Halen. I learned from Joe Satriani. I learned from B.B. King. I learned from Chuck Berry. They'll tell you about all these guys they learned from, because that's how music works. You build upon what's already existed and you come up with something a little more new and a little more different and more nuanced. That's why I love music so much.
That brings me to my next point, right? Because George Harrison said, I think in 69, he said that every note that's ever been played has already been played. And that turned out to be prophetic, right? So that brings me to the oldest book that I own.
Megatrends. Wow.
Megatrends. I bought this book brand new in 1983. At that time, it was a bestseller. Right.
I was 15.
And this, and I was in the Navy, right? And this inspired me to minor in economics in college, right? Because what John Nesbitt said is that in the future that basically America would cease to become a manufacturing economy and become a service oriented economy. Now, when he said that, at that time, my non economically trained mind went in a complete panic mode because see, I was from Detroit, and
Hmm.
manufacturing was what we knew. Manufacturing was what we did. Manufacturing is what built the American middle class, right? And so
Hmm.
for him to say that we would go to being a service oriented economy really shivered my timbers.
Shiver
Now,
me timbers.
yes. Now, what I want to say about this is that this book was prophetic. It was prophetic because
Hmm.
that's where we are right now. Our,
Right.
our manufacturing capability has taken a back seat to our service capacity.
Right.
The problem with that is a lot of our service capacity we've outsourced and offshored to India, to the Philippines, to
Right.
Vietnam, to China. A
Hmm.
lot of our manufacturing we've outsourced to China, and Vietnam. The point is that if you learn about something to the point where you're able to see ahead and spot trends before they happen,
Hmm.
this can change the trajectory of your life. Now, let me share with you another fun fact about me is that for 2 years of my life, I was a paper millionaire.
Really?
I was a paper millionaire. I
Hmm.
had I had a net worth in excess of $1 million.
Gotcha.
Now, here's the problem. I got greedy and the dot-com bubble came and caught me with my shorts down
Uh
and my
oh.
junk in my hand.
Pop. Yeah. Okay. I know
Right?
exactly what you're talking about.
So I went from being wealthy to being ordinary in about a week.
Hmm.
This is about how long it took for all of my wealth, my gains to have been evaporated.
Right.
But here's the thing: is that I still have been able to see some things coming. You know, Yahoo, I saw it coming. Google, I saw it coming, and I've been able to benefit from being able to see those things coming. From being able to see these trends, and then also the whole offshoring thing. I remember I was working for a company, and they announced that they were going to do a lot of the work that we were doing, that it was going to be done in India.
Hmm.
And so we had to start training our Indian replacements, right? And the thing was is that I didn't see that coming, but I saw the next step coming. And so I was able to reposition my career slightly. And that's another thing too. Y'all don't get caught up in trying to make the monumental changes. The monumental changes are not where you're going to get the biggest result. The small changes, the details, the small course corrections. I was reminded of something not too long ago, and I talked about this on a show Aaron and I did, that on the in Apollo 10, not Apollo 11. Apollo 11 landed on the moon, but
Hmm.
Apollo 10 they went to the moon, but they didn't land. But during the trip to the moon, Apollo 10 was doing over 100 course corrections per minute.
Right.
Because if they got it wrong, if they were off by a half a degree, a quarter of a degree, they'd be lost in space.
Right.
So they had to figure it out and make these small adjustments in order to make their trip successful.
Right.
A lot of times we're trying to figure out how to reinvent ourselves or how to change our career totally or how to totally change our way of working, our way of doing, our way of being. And that's not the thing. Find out the small details and figure out where those things are. And because if you find that, you'll find the path to success because the path to success is paved with small details.
Hmm.
And this is not to say, because me personally, I'm not a detail oriented person. I'm a big picture person. I'm a macro guy. I'm a
Right.
big picture guy. I'm the guy that stands on the hill and sees the whole field, right? I'm a
Mm-hmm.
coach. That's what I am. I'm not a player. Even though I played, I'm a coach, right? So the thing is, you have to look at all of these nuances and say, how can I apply these nuances to help change the trajectory of what it is that I'm doing?
Right.
And so that brings me to my next thing here. This book, Supermind.
Supermind.
This was a book that changed my life, because basically the subtitle was How to Awaken Your Super Mentality for a More Productive Future. Simple thing. Simple thing. Let me tell you what one of the things that I do, one of my habits. I listen to audiobooks in my sleep.
Really?
Yes.
You wear like earplugs or whatever?
I have a specially designed sleep headphones, right? They're
Nice.
they're they're soft, and they have small earbuds that meet your ears, right? And I kind of it velcros like up here at the top of my head, and I sleep like a baby. But I listen.
Wow. I
Now,
would love that.
here's the thing. Can I empirically say that this actually helps me? No, I have no scientific evidence to back
Right.
that up. However, I can say this, that if anybody has been listening to me for any amount of time, you know that I'm well versed on a wide variety of subjects.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of listening. I do a lot of study. I do a lot of observing. And if you're going to succeed, these are habits you're going to have to embrace. You're going to have to learn to read. Readers are leaders. That's something that I instilled in my kids from their youngest days. You will either be a reader and a leader, or you'll be someone who follows someone who reads and leads.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so as a result, I've cultivated a habit, a love of reading, a love of books, a love of learning in my kids. And so now they're, I mean, these guys are basically I love to watch them in action, because they will come in, and even my oldest son, who is an introvert and very quiet, but he may be the single most intelligent person I know.
Wow.
You know, he may be the most intelligent person that I know, but he'll go into a room. We used, like we'd have children's church, and he'd be in children's church. And when we come to pick him up from children's church, all the other kids are gathered around him,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because his personality, his manner, his demeanor was magnetic, right? Even though he didn't say much, but whatever he said, it counted, right?
Right. Right.
And then my middle son, Zach, that's my guy. He has the gift of gab. He could, he could sell draws in a strip club, right? That's how good of a talker he is,
I hear
right?
you.
But again, all of my guys, they're all very gifted in their ability to communicate, their ability to understand, to read a situation, to assess information, and to embrace information. So you have to have books like this in your life. So basically, this helps you grow your thinking process. And that brings me to my next point. And this is a more contemporary book. Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping
Oh, I've
Point.
heard of that. I've heard of that book before. I
You
haven't
need
read
to
it yet.
get
I've heard
this.
of it. Yeah, I've
Matter,
heard of it.
matter of fact, Jimmy, after the show, you send me your mailing address. I'm gonna mail you a copy of this.
Cool.
That's how strongly I feel about this, because I think that everybody today, if you're thinking about doing anything, if you have any iota, any shred of ambition or desire, this is a must read. Because if you understand this, you'll understand how things tip from being a mere trend to being a pandemic,
Right. Right.
right? And
Okay.
and basically trends and ideas follow the same trajectory of viruses. It's basically someone can come up with an idea, a thought, a way of dressing, an idea, a phrase, or anything, and
Right.
it begins to spread just like with the same pattern, the
Hmm.
same volume and velocity as an actual virus.
Interesting.
So this is a book that you need to have, right?
Okay.
So that I want to stop there for a second because what are you when you say what are you doing with your life, what is your input? What is your input? Because in the computer business we have something we call GIGO, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if your information is shitty, your output will be shitty,
All
right?
right, gotcha.
If your input is good, your output will be good. And this is why data science is a thing now. Data science basically says, I'm not just looking at data, I'm looking at how can I aggregate, collate, and correlate data to make it make sense, to make it productive information, right?
Hmm.
To make it something that is transformative in business, right? That's
Hmm.
the holy grail of information science right now is
Right.
getting data, turning data into a valued employee, right?
Right.
Making
Yeah.
data go to work, making data earn its keep, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So you have to look at what are you bringing in. Are you watching a lot of bullshit on television? Are you watching a lot of bullshit on social media? Are you listening to a lot of bullshit music? All of these things you have to think about everything from the quality. Hey Tony, I know that you're in Japan, but and this is one of my oldest friends, by the way, Tony Hill. And I'm gonna tell you something. Let me stop here for just a second and talk about Tony Hill because he's like me. He was raised by a single mother in Newark, New Jersey, right? And I met him. We were roommates at the operational test and evaluation force, living in the barracks, right?
Hmm.
And I taught Tony how to play chess, and I taught him how to play tennis. And
Really?
by the time I taught him to play both of these things, Tony Hill could whoop my ass at either one.
I need to play chess with you then, because I played a lot of chess
Okay,
growing up. So,
we can do that.
yeah.
But Tony, I want to salute you, man, because this is a guy that's lived his dreams. Tony went on to become a draftsman in the Navy, and then went on to become air crew certified, and then that took him to Japan, where he finished his career, retired from the Navy, and basically he married a woman from Japan. He has, I think, two or three beautiful daughters, and he's living in Japan. He's living his dream.
Dude, okay, I have to interrupt you
Yeah,
because right now I'm watching a video of one of the this channel I follow on YouTube called 4K Japan.
yeah,
And I told my wife, I call her, she's my girlfriend, but I call her my wife because we live together in all
yeah,
intents and purposes, except for the papers, we're married. Um, I tell her I go to Japan every day because I watch these videos,
yep.
and I'm really infatuated with Japan. Because the one thing that I noticed about Japan that really appeals to me is that when I watch these guys film these videos, whether it be at night or daytime, especially at nighttime
Yeah.
in Tokyo Metropolis, right?
Yep.
You see women walking around by themselves with no care in the world because nothing happens to them on regular basis.
Oh,
And I
hey,
also,
one quick thing, Tony.
mm,
Inbox me your address. I know that you're in Japan, and I don't care. I'll eat the cost, but I'm going to send you that book. And that'll be my gift to you
bet.
for the gift of your friendship.
And Tony, I don't know you, brother, but I would love to talk to you at some point in the near future, if possible, about your living experience in Japan, because over the last year I've become so infatuated with Japan because the fact that I like the people, they're sweet people. I've always been a fan of the Asian folks. And then I look at Japan, how Japan's laid out, and I watch these videos now. I've been watching these videos for quite some time, and I also started trying to get together and find out the best avenue for me to start learning at least a little bit of Japan. Because I'll be
Yep.
honest with you, I have some old Godzilla movies, and for some reason I got them, but they didn't have come with the English subtitles. So I think it would be cool if I was able to understand those movies without having the English subtitles. It would be so much. It would be so much better. And I know that it's going to take some time. And I know a lot of people say that I've on YouTube have been saying that the way they learned Japan or Japanese learn Japan learn Japanese was the fact that they, were studying, of course, but along with that, they would just watch Japanese shows and just it's just like anything else. You do it for long enough, you start catching on.
So let me bring up something on that because my second to youngest son, well, actually both of my younger sons, Derrick the second and Anthony,
Mm-hmm.
they watch Japanese anime in Japanese, right?
Oh, nice.
Now
Yeah.
here's the thing: they watch it with subtitles, but Derrick the second, who we call Ducey,
Mm-hmm.
Ducey is actually studying Japanese because that's a life goal for him to get to Japan, right? So he's immersing himself. So he buys manga books in Japanese, and this is how that and with some coursework, he's teaching himself Japanese.
Oh, so he's actually reading Japanese as well, or what
Exactly,
do they call it?
kanji,
What is it called? Huh?
kanji.
Kanji, yes. So he's reading kanji. So
Mhm.
they also said that if you watch the movies and you do kanji, you catch on to Japanese so much quicker than if you
Yep,
just try to do it the traditional way. So you got to watch something every once in a while, watch something on TV or a movie or something, and then practice kanji along with learning how to pronounce all the symbols and stuff like that. He goes, and they were saying it's amazing how much faster the process is when you incorporate those three different elements. And that's something I learned a few weeks ago, maybe over a month ago. It might be 2 months by now because I think Japan is so cool. Plus, it's so clean
yep,
and it's just awesome. It's like this place it's amazing. Maybe because I'm a me, I'm an Air Force brat, been in the Air Force. I'm used to moving and living around. So my adventure part of my adventurous part of me is like I got so used to moving every 4 to 6 years when I was a
yep,
kid that if my job said, look, there's a certain percentage of the population we can reach better if you live in Japan for whatever crazy reason, and they said we want you to move to Japan, you're gonna have to work over there for the next 4 to 6 years. Would you be able to do that? I'd be like, where's my ticket? I would be on my way, and I would have no problems with that because, like I said, because you were talking about my input, right? The
yep.
reason, part of the reason why, except for besides who I am, who my natural nature is to be, the reason why I'm so tolerant of people from around the world because I generally just love people. I just love people. But the reason why I'm so in tune with that, I give credit to this book that my dad gave me a few years ago. This is the one we
Okay.
talked about before.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So I really love this book. I've read this book multiple times,
Yeah,
and
I
this
need to
book
get that book.
that
I think I wrote it down when you shared it with me before.
it's so awesome, dude. Creating Change Through Humanism by Roy Speckhart. It's so good. I've read that book a few times. Now, I'm reading that God Delusion book now because my dad just gave it to me a couple
Hmm.
weeks ago. So that's what I'm reading that right now. But I do watch some TV now. Don't get me wrong. I am a TV
No,
nut,
nothing
dude.
wrong with watching
I
TV.
watch TV, but
I watch TV.
I also watch informational stuff. I watch nature shows.
Hmm.
I watch like these walking videos just so I can see different parts of the world. Like I don't watch just Japan videos, although a lot of it is that, but I also watch guys driving around different parts of the world, Korea, Singapore, Russia, England. I watch all that stuff. Australia, I watch all that.
So
And
that brings me to another point too. I want to change gears a little bit here
sure,
because
sure.
you're talking about geography and
Mhm.
here's this is really important. There's a statistic that says 80% of people in the United States never live more than 50 miles from their place of birth.
Sad.
That's a statistic, right?
Super sad.
80%. So when you look at people like you who have lived all over the world, have traveled, people like Tony Hill, that's rare. That you're an outlier when
Mhm.
you do that. And so I'll never forget. that the first time I went to a public library and checked out a book, the very first book that I ever checked out, and I remember it like it was yesterday, it was
Mhm.
a book about Brazil.
Brazil.
I can't tell you why I was so fascinated with Brazil, but I was. I was not quite 6 years old. But I got this book and I was
Oh
looking at this
wow,
book and I was like,
you're a little guy.
this is beautiful because I have to confess that when my mom and dad separated and my mom decided to move back to where she grew up in Detroit, I was angry with her. I was angry with her for years because I liked my little life in Decatur, Illinois, and I missed it. I hated
Right.
Detroit. I didn't like Detroit until I got to high school. I
Okay,
hated
gotcha.
Detroit until I got to high school. And so at that point, I learned how to negotiate Detroit. I learned how to navigate Detroit, and I learned how to
Mhm.
understand Detroit. But up until that, I was angry, right? So what I did was, and again, I mentioned this early on in the show, is that I had to figure out if I'm going to leave Detroit. I had to either go to school away from Detroit, which was not going to happen because I didn't have any scholarship money or anything like that. I could have gone to school in state, but that's not what I wanted to do. So I joined the military, and the first thing I did, I'm going to Great Lakes, Illinois for boot camp, and then after that, I'm going to San Diego for training, right? And then my first duty station is San Diego before I get shipped to Norfolk, right? Now,
Ah, Norfolk, my hometown.
so here's the thing, right? Since then, I have been to literally, I've been to every country in South America. I've been to every
Really?
country. Yes, I've been to every country in Central America. I've been to all 50 states and all 12 Canadian provinces.
Wow,
I,
I've been
I,
to two
I've
Canadian
been I've
provinces.
been to most of Europe. I've been to pretty much every major place in Africa except South Africa, right?
Wow,
I,
really?
I've I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Israel a couple of times. I've been to Saudi Arabia. I worked in Saudi Arabia for 6 months.
Mm, how was
You
that?
know, to Bahrain, to Kuwait. I went to Kuwait before, not Kuwait, Dubai. I went to Dubai before Dubai was Dubai. Dubai used to be a shithole,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
now it's
yep.
it's it's magnificent. So I need to go back. But the point is that I've been able to see the world. And when I worked for SAP, SAP is a German company, so I went to Germany 3 times for them. Right,
Mm.
I went to Portugal, to Spain, to the UK, to England, to Scotland, to Wales. Trying to think, where else did I go? To Nigeria,
Wow.
to Egypt. I've been all over the place. For work, right?
Right. Oh yeah,
and
for work.
and
Okay.
so I, in order sometimes in order to change your situation, you have to change your geography. And if you're not willing to change where you are, I have a friend, and he may be watching. I'm not going to mention his name, but I told him, I said, hey man, you need to go to like Chattanooga, right? Chattanooga, there's a big Volkswagen plant there, and they're hiring, right? Now, he has some challenges because I think he has 2 kids with autism, right?
Oh
And
wow.
and that and so his infrastructure, his family infrastructure, kind of helps him, manage that, right? So
Mhm.
I understand. In his case, I understand. He can't just get up and go. But
Right.
most people that don't have, either if they don't have kids at all, or their kids are all healthy and well adjusted and everything, then get up and go. Pack up the family, because here's the thing: me and my family, since my wife and I have been married, we've lived in Michigan, we lived in Arkansas, we lived in Texas, we lived in Arizona, we lived in Oklahoma. We lived in 5 states in the 21 years that we've been married. Five
Okay.
states, right?
Okay.
And I really believe that my kids are better for that because they have learned to be agile, they've learned to be flexible, they've learned to adapt to different environments. And I want to say this too. This is a story. When we were living in Texas, we had this magnificent house. It was a little mansion, right?
Hmm.
5,200 square feet, sat on 2 acres of land, had a creek running in the back of it. We used to go fishing in our backyard, and then we had like a 30,000 gallon dive pool in our backyard.
Right.
Lap of luxury. So one day we're in the pool, we're swimming in the pool, me and the kids, we're swimming in the pool, and all of a sudden I'm looking at them and I broke down crying. I just broke down crying. And my kids all rushed to me because they thought something was wrong. And they said, Daddy, what's the matter? What's the matter? And you know what I said? My, or your normal is my miracle.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah.
Because they had a life that I could only dream of.
Yeah. When
See,
you were
we didn't
little, it
have
wasn't
swimming
that way.
pools.
Yeah.
We had the Channel 2 swimmobile that would come by twice in the summer. And so us ghetto kids could swim in and have some place to swim. Or we go to
Yeah.
Palmer Park,
Yeah.
before that turned into a rat hole. This is the thing, man. We didn't have, and it was like me and my brother, we used to have to share a bed, not just share a bedroom, but share a bed, right? And here my kids, not only do they have their own room, but they've got a toy room, they
Right.
got a theater room.
Oh, wow.
We had a den, a family room. We had a formal dining room. We had this massive entry, 2-story entry with a crystal chandelier, and this was their normal. They're going to school in Mercedes S classes and Porsche 911s. That's their
Right.
normal. That's their
Hmm.
normal. These are things that I only dreamed about. So but the point is that if I wasn't willing to change my geography, I wouldn't have changed the trajectory of their lives.
Right. Yeah. Um, Growing up with both my mom and dad in the military, um, when I was younger, I used to think, would it be cool to grow up and go to the same school system and grow up with the same kids through kindergarten through 12.
Yep.
But when I look back on that as an adult, I'm glad I didn't do that because I don't think I would be as broad minded if I was like grew up the whole time in Norfolk, Virginia. I'd still probably be there.
Right.
And who knows what I would be doing at this point. But I guarantee you I would sound different because believe it or not, when I was a small child, before my mom, because my mom joined the military in 75 when I
Yep.
was 7. And we moved up there with her on the bike. I remember we moved up to North Dakota the bicentennial year, me and my little sister, who's a year younger than I. When I at that time I had a southern accent. I couldn't
Oh
make that
yeah.
accent happen again
You
if I
don't sound like
tried.
you're from Norfolk.
Yeah, I'm from
Big
Norfolk
man.
for real. Evelyn T. Butts Avenue.
Yep.
That's my grandmother.
Okay. Oh no
So
shit.
that is my grandmother. Yes, that
Oh
book that
wow.
was written by her, that was
Yeah.
written by my
Oh,
mother.
she's a
Yes.
civil rights legend, man.
Oh, yes, she is. So my mother wrote that book about her that I have over there on the shelf.
Okay.
And but what I'm saying is, although I love Norfolk, Virginia, my sister lives in Hampton now. But and I have family there. I actually am grateful that I was able to live in the Midwest, on the West Coast, in Germany, traveled in Europe while we were there living in Germany for 4 years. And without and then you get to meet different types of children when you're growing up in that particular situation to where my mind is so that the color thing went away from me as soon as I was taken out of that context of
Mhm.
when I got uh to Minot, North Dakota. Wow, Minot, that was so long ago.
Yep.
But anyway, when I got up to Minot, I I was infatuated with this little girl named Terry, little white girl named Terry. But back then in 1976, 77, it wasn't normal for little black kids to be attracted to white kids or Asian kids or anything like that because you grew up with your own kind, so to speak. So at a young age, I didn't care what a person's skin color was. That never was a thing. Like it was new to me at a certain point in time because I was also surrounded by black folks all the time. But once I got used to it and went to school with white kids and Mexican kids and Asian kids because, of the military. Where we're going now as a society where we're becoming more tolerant of these different cultural differences and physical differences and skin color differences. I was already there. It just
Yep.
wasn't, like you said before, that also helped me critically think about things because I had such an open mind
Yep.
that I didn't take anything for granted. So, and when you told me that only a certain percentage of people in the world are able to critically think, which I thought that blew my mind. I still
Yeah.
can't
Only
process
only
that.
20% of the people in the world are
And I
considered to be
still
critical thinkers.
I can't process that. That doesn't make any sense to me because my dad has always told me that you need to use your head for more than a hat rack.
Yep.
He said you need to think about everything you do to a certain extent, or people are going to make decisions for you.
Yep.
If you can't make, if you're not thinking and putting yourself in a position to make your own decisions, people are going to make decisions for you whether you like it or not.
Well,
And that's
and
the way
that
life
brings me
goes.
to another point, right? That the people that you surround yourself with, this is
Mm-hmm.
really important because I'm. I'll share another experience with you. When I was 15 years old, I got into some trouble, got caught with a firearm, right?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And so my mom said, "Okay, you need some daddy time." So she talked to my dad and said, okay, you need to spend some time with these kids and see if you can get them on the right track. So we went up to my dad's place in Burnsville, Minnesota.
Burnsville. Oh Lord. Burnsville, Minnesota. I don't even know what that
Burnsville,
is.
Minnesota, south of the Twin Cities, right?
Oh wow. Okay.
And that was a culture shock because I went from a majority. I mean, I went from a pretty much blackety black world,
Mm-hmm.
right, to where I was one of 6 black kids in the entire high school.
Wow.
1,800 kids. I'm one of 6,
Oh Lord. Yeah, I
right?
feel you. Yep.
And
Been
that
there,
was a
done that.
challenge. That's a show all by itself. But
Right.
let me say this: that I learned about things like different music. I learned about different habits and cultures,
Mm-hmm.
different idiosyncrasies of different of people of different races. Um, our neighborhood, where we lived on 23rd Avenue in
Mm-hmm.
Burnsville, Minnesota, my dad had the second biggest house on the block at the back of the cul-de-sac, right?
Hmm.
And this was funny because people at school they say, "Oh, you live in the rich neighborhood," right? Which
Oh.
that was funny to me, right? But on our
Right.
street, we were black, and we had a white family. We had a family from Paraguay. We had a family from Iran. We had a family from Ireland. And these are the people that were on the block. So it's like we were like the United Nations on our
Right.
block, right?
Right.
And so I learned a lot about a lot of different things. And this is a true story. I actually got a job. I interviewed for this job, and when I'm sitting in the office of this guy. He's a senior VP of this company, and he had a guitar on the wall that had belonged to Peter Frampton. It had been autographed by Peter
Nice.
Frampton. It was one of those dual neck guitars that Peter Frampton pioneered,
Uh-huh.
right? And I saw it and knew exactly what it was, knew exactly who it was that signed it, knew exactly who it was that played it, and so I said, "Hey," I said, where did you get that Frampton guitar?" And
That's
he
cool.
looked at me like, this young black guy, how the fuck does he know about Frampton?
Yep.
That
Been
wa-
there,
that
done
was
that.
that was what was going through his mind, and
Mm-hmm.
and he hired me. I mean, I think that I was competitive in terms of my skills, but he hired me because I knew what that fucking guitar was. And I'm still friends with this guy to this day, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's retired and now he's a venture capitalist, right? But the thing is, I knew what it was. And I wouldn't have known what it was if it weren't for my time in Burnsville, Minnesota.
Right. Yeah.
You see, and so let me go back here and go back to Tony Hill for a second because Tony could tell you where we lived on the 3rd floor of the St. Clamp Barracks in Norfolk, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real eclectic mix of people. Not only did you have black folks from different parts of the country, because I'm from Detroit, our other roommate, Steve Lloyd, was from Philadelphia, Tony is from Newark. We had Gary Neal across the hall from Flint, Michigan. Kerry Worsham from Highland Park, Michigan. We had Daryl Taylor from Mobile, Alabama, and David Thomas from Beaverton, Oregon, and on and on. Pete Ramos, who
Wow,
was
just
and
everywhere.
Eddie Lewis. They were both from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we had all of these different people, and all of these people contributed to the soundtrack of my life. And here's the thing about all of these people, every single one of them, and I wish that some of them would watch this and hear this so they can know what they contributed to my life. But every one of these people, Al Blockton, God, oh man, Darren Briscoe, Malik Taylor. I'm trying to think of all these different guys, right? But all of these, the common denominator is that these guys were all positive, they were intelligent, they were ambitious, inspirational guys. They all had a fucking story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then even some of the white guys, like one of my roommates, Pat Maloney. Pat and I are still close to this day. Pat's from like Saginaw, Michigan, and he's about as white can be, but he's my dude, right?
Right, right,
And
right.
we had this eclectic mix of people in our barracks, and all of these people contributed things to our lives. And so I'll speak to people, and Tony, I saw what you posted, earlier about me being inspirational and everything, and I love you for that, man. But here's the thing: these people were inspirational to me. They
Mm-hmm.
they were inspirational to me. Man. Um, God damn, I could just, I could,
I feel you,
I don't
bruh.
have enough time to cover everybody. But then
Right.
I go back to people that I grew up with, right? Leon Mims, who was a retired captain from the Detroit Fire Department. Tony Sharp, who was a retired supervisor from the Detroit Department of Transportation. He started driving the bus. He retired as being a supervisor. Inman Dexter, who was the chief engineer for the Pontiac Fiero, right? These are people that I grew up with,
Really?
right? These are these are the people. Ronnie Roston. Ronnie is an executive chef in a restaurant in Seattle now. It's like and these are the Tony Berry. Colonel Tony Berry retired from the army, right? Roger Yap, who was a major music producer. I could go on and on about all these
Yeah.
different people, but the thing is that there were so many of the people that I grew up with that they contributed positive things to my life. But even then, even after that, right?
Mm.
When I was living in Norfolk, Virginia, I got into journalism. I had a syndicated column, and I was a radio talk show host, right? And I
Right.
got into those things because Brenda Andrews, who was the publisher of the New Journal and Guide, she gave me a shot at writing a column for her paper, and it
Mm-hmm.
became a thing, right? Bill Thomas, who thought that I had the talent to be a radio announcer, he got me into WNIS, which eventually got me to my own talk show, right? Jack Howard, Jack was one of the talk show hosts at WNIS, and he was my foil because at that time I was the Republican, I was the black Republican, Jack was a Democrat, and whenever election season would come on, they put me and Jack on the air together and throw fireworks, right? And
Gotcha.
and
Yep.
so all of these people, and then I could think of people from the media in Norfolk, Virginia, Karen Quinones Miller, who was a an editor for the Philadelphia Inquirer and who's now a Pulitzer nominated novelist, Barbara Sierra, who's an Emmy-winning anchor, Kurt Williams rather, who's celebrating his birthday today. By the way, Kurt, if you're hearing this, happy birthday! Kurt's an anchor for WTKR in Norfolk, Virginia, and all of these people, they just for whatever reason. I was able to get close to these people, and they all poured something into my life. Barbara Ham, who is the producer at WHRO in Norfolk, Virginia, these people poured into my life. Carlos Howard, who's an undertaker, he's a mortician
Mhm.
in Norfolk, Virginia. He was like my big brother. And matter of fact, that when my wife Loretta died in 1994, Carlos took care of all of the arrangements. He said, "Don't worry about anything. I got this." Right? He took care of
Right.
everything, and it was beautiful. I can't think of all of the people who have contributed to my life. What I'm saying to all of you that are you listening, if you stayed here this long, make sure that you surround yourself with quality people who not only are contributing to your life, but they get something from you. Because
You know,
you don't want a one-way relationship. You want the relationship to be bidirectional. And Jimmy,
exactly.
that's one of the things that I'm gonna call you out because I've known you less than a year. We
Hmm.
met through Facebook. You commented on some of my posts on my page, and listening to you, and then you got on it. You jumped on some of the shows like you did today, and I'm like, man, I said this dude knows his shit. He's articulate. He's positive, and you're somebody I wanted in my life. So I was like, okay, what
I
can I do
appreciate
to
it.
help Jimmy get his
Right.
message out?
Right.
So it's all of these things, man. I can't say enough about who you surround yourself with, because if you surround yourself with good people,
Hmm.
good will come to you.
The
Good will follow you. But watch this. One of my friends in Phoenix, a pastor friend of mine, he said that he never ended any relationship.
uh-uh.
He said relationships always ended for him.
Right.
And so my response to him was the trash takes
It's
itself out.
itself out. Yep. And when I told you that story the other day about the guy I had to let go too. Well, he
Yep.
let himself go with that crazy ass statement, and I was like,
I don't kick
I can't
anybody to the
involve.
well. I,
Yeah.
I did once, and this was an old friend of mine, but he was a Trump supporter, and he's this one guy. I know people two people classmates of mine from high school
Hmm.
that have a net worth of over $200 million.
Damn.
I know two from high
Can I get
school.
just 10 of that? Can you just give me 10 of that? I'll be set for the rest of my life.
But you know what? Truth. But here's the thing, right? It's like my man. He was like determined to defend all of this Trump shit, and I'm like, dude.
Ugh.
I said, I can't fuck with that. And he said, well, if you choose to end our friendship over this, he said that's on you. I said, well, it'll be on me then. You know,
Oh,
and
excuse me.
and and
Yep.
I had to let it go. But this was like, I mean, I'm really proud of this guy. I'm not going to call his name out, but I'm really proud of him for what he accomplished because he's a major financier, and
Right.
he's really retired now. All he does is he teaches people, how to do what he did.
Right.
And the other person was a reporter and a producer for CNN, and she's
Hmm.
gone on to do really fantastic things. But between the two, each of them probably worth $250 million each one of
You
them.
know, I know people that voted for Trump and support Trump, but I don't have any friends that I would consider a friend who would do that. Because to be my friend, that's like we were talking about a couple weeks ago in Freeology. It's a privilege to be a part of my life. And before I go on, I'd like to say that I appreciate you recognizing or seeing something in me, and enough to where you gave me your show, the Unreligious Show. That that you have no idea what I thought about you when you did that. I was like, this guy barely knows me, but he saw something in me where he trusted me with his show.
Yep.
Something in
And I
me
could have
told
kept
him,
on running with it.
right, and something in him told him, yeah, this guy won't fuck it up. He'll do a good job. And I've enjoyed the ride so far. I've only been doing it for
Dude,
what, 3
I
months?
salute you because you've done me proud.
I appreciate that, brother. So I've been doing it since middle February, or was it
Yep.
March?
Yep.
It was in February. Anyway,
February. Yeah.
whatever it was, and I'm having a ball. But what I got from what you were saying earlier is a thing that I've always believed, is that if you are the kind of person that lends itself to traveling, not necessarily living other places, but going other places,
Mhm.
meeting new people, expanding your horizons, expanding your brain, and actually experimenting with new ways to think about things,
Yep.
stretching yourself. You
Yep.
can't do that when you're stuck in a little one horse town and
Nope.
everybody goes to the same bar, does the same shit, talks about the same shit, and your life gets stagnant, like stagnant pond water. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I've always, you can always tell a person who's well traveled because they seem to know. They seem, you ever like, well, I'm sure you have, but somebody who's considered worldly,
Hmm.
a worldly person is 99 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100. Look at me. I can't do math. 99 times out of 100 is a person who is very intelligent and very open minded. I find that a lot of the times too. Because a lot of people, especially me living in the Midwest as long as I have, when you have that small town mentality, and there's a certain charm that goes with a small town, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But when you have that small town mentality, you tend to get pigeonholed in a certain way that you talk, a certain way that you think, a certain beliefs that you have, and things of that nature. And when you've been doing that for so many decades, it's very hard to stop doing that because it's gotten you this far in life. So why would you change anything? Like I ask people all the time, would you? I don't even want to go visit California. Why not? It's a beautiful state. Are you high?
Let me tell you something. You talk about small
Jesus.
town people. Let me tell you this. I'm from Detroit. Detroit is either a bridge or tunnel ride away from Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And for most of the time that I lived there, well, matter of fact, for the entire time that I lived there, all you had to have, really, you didn't need anything because when we were kids, we used to ride our bikes
Oh,
over the
back in the day,
American
yeah, you
Bridge
didn't need an
to
ID to go to
Canada,
Canada. Yeah,
right?
I remember
And
that.
so
Yep.
you didn't even need ID. You just went, and it was cool, right?
Yep.
I know people to this day that are from Detroit that I grew up with that have never fucking been to Canada.
I don't understand that at
And that
all.
blows my mind.
I don't
Why the
understand that.
fuck would you not go to Canada and you're right across? So here's the point that I'm saying is that mentality doesn't exactly it doesn't exist only in small communities. It exists in big communities as well.
Well, I've lived in the Puget Sound area for 11 years. Okay. I know people that live there that are from there
Yep.
and have never been up in the Space Needle. I'm like, how do you live in Seattle and not go to the damn Space Needle? That's like one of the things, that and Mount Rainier
Yep.
are the two biggest things. And then you got the floating bridge that goes across Lake Washington and
Yep.
goes over to Bellevue. But what I'm saying is, how do you live and not and in my opinion, how do you not go to Snoqualmie Falls either? Snoqualmie Falls is beautiful. I've been there
Yeah.
twice. And so I'm like, and I've driven around. I've actually, because I lived on a peninsula for a while in Bremerton. My ex-wife's ex-husband was a submariner. And I lived out in her house that she owned out there in Bremerton. And we were married for a very short time. That's one of my earlier mistakes. But anyway, I learned from it. I don't regret it at all. It was a learning experience. But when I was living there, I experienced that very thing. People that have lived in the same neighborhood forever, and
Yep.
I've never been up to space, and I don't care about the space. I'm like, dude, you're taking that for granted. People travel literally around the world to come see that thing and go up in it,
Yeah.
and you guys live right here, and you have it. And I know people that didn't even go up on Mount Rainier. And I'm not talking climate, but go.
Yep.
There's places you can go. My
Yep.
girlfriend at the time, when I moved there, she had family that owned land on Mount Rainier. I've been on Mount Rainier a lot of times, and
Yeah.
it's cool because
I've been to the halfway point on Mount Rainier.
I haven't been up that far. But I tell you what, I would, whenever I lived there, people would tell you, oh yeah, that's Jimmy's mountain. That's what he says. Because I used to say that's my mountain right there. That's my mountain. Because I thought I've never lived anywhere where you can see a mountain peak like that, and it was so cool to me that I was like very infatuated with that. Like in my bucket list, there's only 3 states I want to go to that I haven't been to. I've been to most of them. I'm not interested in going to South Carolina, and I'm not interested in going to New Mexico. But I am interested in going to Alaska, Hawaii, and Arizona. And if it was up to me, I would either live in Arizona or Las Vegas. Not Las Vegas proper, but like Boulder City or
Yep.
Henderson, like outside. I don't like living inside the city. Like if me and Eva ever moved down closer to Kansas City, we would not live in Kansas City. We live in one of the suburbs of Kansas City. I don't like living right in the city, but I like to be close to a metropolitan area. And like where we live now is not too bad. It's about 100 miles south of Omaha and about 100 miles north of Kansas City. So we're in a pretty decent spot. I've been to so many. I'm a Yankees fan, but I've been to I don't know how many damn Royals games since I've lived here. It's ridiculous. We
Well,
go to a base.
like
We
there are
go
a lot of newer ballparks now, but like all of the old ballparks, I've been to 100% of them. That was a bucket list.
I don't care what nobody says. One of the coolest ballparks in the country. Now, my favorite football team is the Steelers. You know this.
Yep.
And my favorite team is the Yankees for baseball, but I have a soft part of my heart for the Pirates too, but they're not my favorite team. But I tell you what, PNC Park is dope.
Oh, it is.
PNC
That's
Park
one of the
is
best places to
impressive.
watch a ball game.
That is impressive park, bro. I was like,
My favorite place, my favorite ballpark is Camden Yards.
Camden Yards is cool too. Yeah, in Baltimore. Yep. Yep.
Because I had a customer that was in the office building that overlooked Camden Yards, so we were able to like watch afternoon ball games, from the office, which was
Nice.
really cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
But I want to get to this last thing, right? And this is another book, right? Secrets of Anti-Gravity Propulsion.
We got some science stuff. Science stuff.
Why, Derrick, would you pull that up? Of all things, right? Because you have to stretch, right? Read something that you don't know any fucking thing about.
I got that.
And understand that. I have to tell you this story. This is a really good story. I have 4 friends who are morticians, undertakers, they're good friends of mine, right?
Right.
And one of the things that happens is just like any other career situation is like people begin to talk about work, right? And so when your mortician friends are comfortable enough with you to start talking about work, it's like, okay, now a lot of it I can handle. Like my friend who I went through buds with, Roman Lofton. Roman
You went through buds?
Roman was I'm not a
Wow.
SEAL. I'm
I
not a
know,
SEAL.
but did you complete buds?
No, I didn't finish.
Oh,
I
you didn't
ran
finish.
out.
Okay. I was about to get you major props because that shit is
No,
difficult.
but even getting there is not a
Getting there is
joke,
hard,
right?
but whew,
But Lofton owns
finishing
a
it.
funeral home down in Georgia, right?
Okay.
And so he explained to me how he's able to tell when a body is fully embalmed, right?
Jeez.
And he could take a needle and scratch it underneath the under the forearm,
Uh-huh.
and once you see the fluid coming out, you know that the body is fully embalmed,
Oh, I
right?
got you.
Now,
Yeah.
I would have never known that, but
Or
he
or
told
cared.
well, I always say like there are 2 things in life that you know that they happen, but you really don't want to know how they happen, and that's
Right.
embalming and dry cleaning. They
Yes,
both
exactly.
happen. You just really don't want to know the mechanics of it, right?
No, no.
So, but the point that I'm getting at is that when you hang around people that know things that you don't, they will begin to share those things with you. Now,
Right.
you have to develop you have to either develop some fortitude for the things that they talk about, or develop some boundaries, right? Because I have friends that work in nuclear power, for example.
Okay. Okay.
And they tell me things about nuclear power. Well, there are some things that, about nuclear power that, if you knew that these things happen, you'd probably be a little concerned. But the point is, you have to say, okay, is this something that I can relate to? Is this something I can handle? And all of that. I have another friend who's a trauma surgeon, right? And And sometimes, when I'm talking to him, the conversation will be flowing, and he'll talk about, hey, there was this guy had a life flight in, and his head was hanging halfway off, and
Jesus.
and but here's the point that I'm getting at is that what happens is that when you hear these kinds of accounts, you
Mhm.
hear some things that or people wouldn't ordinarily hear,
Right.
right? So you have to kind of prepare yourself for those things, and again, expanding the kinds of people that you hang around with. One of the things that I'm really grateful for, and Bill Thomas, Jack Howard, Carlos Howard, these are people that help me get my feet wet in the political game.
Right.
And so I remember going to something. There's an event that happens in Virginia. It's called the Shad Planking, and it's basically a gathering of political bigwigs. And it's so big that not only do people from Virginia go, but people from all over the country go, Democrats and Republicans. And if you hear what goes on there, you're like, man, the whole entire political process in the country is FUBAR, right?
Yeah.
You just but the thing is that if it weren't for those people who introduced me to those situations, these are things that I wouldn't have known. And
Right.
if I didn't know these things, I'd be as politically ignorant as the average person, which I'm not. I know things that people don't know. And because of that, it's like, oh my God. You know, Listen, let me say this. I'm not a big Joe Biden fan, for the record. I'm not. Uh, but he's not Trump. And that was all I needed. That's
Hmm.
all I needed to know. That's all I needed politically is that he's not fucking Trump, right?
Hmm.
So I could give him a hall pass because he's
Hmm.
not fucking Trump,
Right.
right? But the thing is that there are far better candidates out here. I'm listening to Gavin Newsom, and I watched his Fox News interview and how he absolutely fucking shredded Sean Hannity.
Oh,
And
yeah, 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 yeah. The
yeah,
governor of California, right?
yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty, he's
And
pretty,
and then
pretty,
and then people like
pretty sharp
Pete
dude.
Buttigieg. Pete
Yeah,
Buttigieg is probably
I like Pete
he
too.
he's the smartest fucking guy in politics right now. He's the best candidate right now.
Yeah, I
The
like
the
Pete too.
challenge is America ready for a gay president?
No,
That's and
they're
and
not.
the answer to that is
They're,
probably no.
they're not
But
even ready for a woman president. Are you kidding
no,
me?
no. And
Oh,
that was funny because like this country was more ready for a black man to be president than a white woman.
that's crazy.
That's crazy,
That
but
is
that's the
crazy.
truth.
Yeah, I'd be honest with you. I always thought there would be a white woman president before a black man president,
I
but I
thought
got
so
it
too.
wrong. I
I
got it
thought so
wrong. I
too.
guess they care more about making sure you got danglies between your legs. I guess they value that more than they value a woman who was
Hey,
superiorly more qualified to be president than Trump at
beans and
every
frank
level. At
beans
every
and
level.
franks outweigh tacos.
Oh, say that again.
I said beans and franks outweigh tacos.
Apparently, because I don't care what you say at every stage of what you could be qualified to be president at, she trumped Trump at that.
Yep.
There was nothing that he was more qualified than her at being the leader of this country. But I don't want to get into a political debate or anything like
Well,
that. I
but
agree. That's just my thing. But I
here,
tell you what,
Jimmy, what I want to do now is I want to give you a chance to give some closing comments because I want to wrap this up.
okay.
I only went as long. I was saying I was going to go an hour at this, right? But when you came on, I knew that you'd be full of
Well, it's
wisdom and insight and everything, and you contributed and helped carry this conversation.
well, I
And,
appreciate
and you've
that.
done a fantastic job. And dude,
Thank you, sir.
listen, man, from the bottom of my heart, I love you. I respect you. I honor
Thank
you.
you. I
You
love you
you
too,
you
brother.
you are my dude for real.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Because last night was my longest show ever.
Yep.
And if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. The fact that me and Jamel clicked like that was such it was not only a surprise, but I was so happy. And I made another friend. And at this age, making quality friends is not an easy task. So when that happened last night, that was magical to me. So we exchanged phone numbers last night right after the show.
That's
Because
awesome.
he's one of my new bros too. I like that cat. I like the where his head is at. I like the way he presents himself. And I was very surprised that I'm older than him, because I swear to God, I thought he was older than me. But anyway, what I wanted to say based on the show, as far as making success part of your journey, is that this is something I just figured out tonight, that the breadth of your experience directly relates to the amount of knowledge that you expose yourself to. And without gaining experience, and that experience a lot of times comes with, you got to step out of your comfort level,
Yep.
and you got to go places you never thought you needed to go. Like, especially when you're given the opportunity to go somewhere, don't say no. Freaking go.
Yep.
Go, because you're going to regret. Here's the thing about life, and every old person tells you this: you never regret the shit that you do. You always regret the shit that you didn't do. And like, you always go, I never went to Australia like I want to. I never went to Japan. I never went to China. I never visited Korea. I never been to Africa or Scotland or South America. And you always regret the stuff you didn't do more than you regret the stuff that you did do that you weren't necessarily proud of. Because we all know that you can learn from things that you may have fucked up along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You can't learn from when you don't go. I mean, you can go. You never know. You can go to Scotland and it could be a great experience. You can go and be like, man, I'll never come to Scotland again ever in life. But you would have never known that unless you went. And I don't care what anybody says, unless you get killed or something horrible happens to you there. I really didn't like Mississippi all that much. But there are certain things about Mississippi I like, because I was there. I went to Keesler Air Force Base to go to tech school.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that I went there and I experienced being in the deep South. And this was in late 80s. I was there, and I got there in 89, left at the end of 89. Wasn't particularly like that place, but I met some good friends on the base there, that lasted me a lifetime. So I just think that when you're presented with opportunities to do things and to go places that you haven't been before, you should take those opportunities and do those, because there are going to be some cherished memories and some knowledge you're going to gain. Maybe you'll gain some lifelong friends, meet some good people, things of that nature, because you can't replace those experiences with anything. Those experiences are going to be those things that shape who you are as a person. And man, I really embrace going and meeting new people. I like meeting new people. I think it's the best thing ever, because I don't care who you are. This is the one thing that's crazy. You're never, ever, 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 I don't care what you do, you're never, ever going to meet 1% of the population. Never. You know how many people that is? They say the average person only knows about 600 people in their lifetime. That's like 1 something millionth of a percent. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so when people say, well, I've met a lot of people, and most people are like, you haven't met most people. You haven't even met 1% of the people. Stop it. That's ridiculous. Come on now. Let's be real. So my thing is just go out, gather as much experience as you can, meet as many people as you can, and connect with the good people.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to let the bad ones shed themselves out. I had to do that recently and before. I don't have a problem with letting people who are not, if you're not contributing something positive to my life, I have no use for you. And it's not that I hate you or think you're a bad person. It's just that I'm going in a certain direction. And if you're trying to pull me from doing that, I can't, like my dad said, sometimes you got to get rid of dead weight.
Yep.
I mean, maybe, and that may help them go along their way, but you guys don't have to, you don't have to be, you don't have to feel guilty because you're making it a privilege to be with you. So That's just the way I look at things, man. I just like, hey, no hard feelings, but we're our goals are different, and this is
Yep.
not something we need to do. Hey, good luck to you. I'm gonna do my thing. You do your thing. Maybe one day in the future we can link back up, but for now, it's not a good fit.
Nah, yeah.
It just is what it is. And so the friends that I'm making now, I'm so happy. Like it's like I've been wanting to deal with good brothers like you and Broadnax and Aaron, who I really have a soft spot for that guy because
You
he's
got to
like
get him
me.
on your show.
Yeah, me and him are kind of the same because he gets emotional like I do. He gets emotional like I do, and I love that guy for that. I love people who show their emotion, not afraid to show their emotion because I'm a very emotional person. Dude, I watch TV shows I've seen a billion times and still cry because I'm a big wuss. I ain't gonna lie. I'm just a big
I'm the
softy.
same way.
I'm a big
I'm the same
softy,
way.
bro. I'm a big softy. But anyway, I appreciate you and everything you've done for me in this short amount of time. And hopefully our relationship will grow on the years and years and years. And we can do bigger things together,
Yep.
including with Aaron and
Well, that's the
Jamel
game plan.
and all those guys. And
What we're doing is
Tommy.
we're building something here.
Tommy is one of my favorite new people too. I love that guy.
Yep.
I've met so many cool people, and this is the truth. Tommy, Aaron, and Jamel Broadnax, I would not know those guys if it wasn't for you. So thank you for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So let me say this. This is my closing. Right? Is that I've been blessed to have met. Once I was an attendee at a state dinner, and I sat next to the president of Ghana, Jerry John Rawlings. True story, right? That was like the high point of my political career. I have friends who are professional athletes. I have friends in the news business. I have friends in the entertainment business. I've dated three legit celebrities. You know, and this is not to say that I'm so suchy much. It's not the point. The point is that I've been very intentional about my life,
Mm-hmm.
about the things that I've done, about the things that I've attempted, and the things that I've been exposed to. And because of that, doors have opened to me.
Right.
And and for that, I'm grateful. But the question that I want to leave everybody with, and I want to hear what you have to say. If you made it this far, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what is it that if money were no object, if time were no object, if opportunity were no object, that thing that you would do. And that if you aren't doing it, let me try to help you. Because again, there are things in my life. I could have been a radio talk show host. I didn't take it because it wasn't paying what I was making in my career. I could have been a newspaper columnist. It wasn't paying what I was making. So I turned it down. I could have been a speaker or a life coach, but it wasn't paying what I'm making. And what I make, if I were to tell you what I actually make in a year, many of you would consider it obscene money. I make really good money, and that's a blessing. But the point is that if you are in a position where money is not an issue, where opportunity is not an issue, then the thing to do is to figure out what it is that you want to do. Why is it that you want to do it? And then go do it.
Yep.
Now, if you're like me and you don't know how to do it because you're making X amount of money here, but you're making X minus this amount here. If you were to do this, come and talk to me and I can help you negotiate that because I've been there. I've done that and I've got the t-shirt. So that being said, Jimmy, thank you for jumping on and hanging out for as long as you did, man. You helped carry this conversation into a lot of different dimensions, and I appreciate your intellect. I appreciate your straightforwardness. You're a real dude, and I appreciate and love the fuck out of you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
So thank you all for attending our TED Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Y'all be good. All right. Later.